Alright everyone, what's funnier than Stephen Colbert? A rock or a clump of grass at this point. The fire Colbert thing is especially funny. Because I don't think that he should be fired for being a homophobe or anything like that. I'll get into the hypocrisy of the left on that issue too. That's solid gold too. I think he should be fired for being unfunny. Some of his fans, when I was tweeting about this last night, and I've made some jokes and sarcastic humor about, oh, well, he should be fired because nothing he says will be funnier than Hillary Clinton's campaign and stuff like that. Which is true. I mean, that's not even really satire. It's just a statement of fact. Yeah, I think he's unfunny. The left is hypocritical on this issue, certainly. As far as homophobia stuff goes, no, I'm not triggered. Some people tried to call me a snowflake there. They also insinuated I was like a Bible-thumping Republican or something like that. That's especially funny. Someone who knows nothing about me is trying to satirize me and trying to debate the point with me. They will inevitably lose. It's just like people who assume that I'm still a Satanist and they want to debate religious topics, but their whole premise is totally flawed because their premise is based on, oh, he worships the devil or something like that. It just doesn't work. Colbert hasn't been funny in years. And because he's part of the same establishment that he once satirized, Colbert became funny because he was like one of those early, like, pre-kind of social media era entertainers, comedians, and he was more edgy. And he looked at DC and he said, well, you know, there's plenty of solid gold humor to be had here. It's a day-to-day basis. There's 1,000 weird things going on in Washington. And so he started satirizing these people, and it was very funny at first, because he would aim his guns left and right. He had no problem with satirizing anybody under the sun. But then Obama was elected. And Obama became the social media sacred cow of many corporate endeavors, including Colbert, who is a corporate figure. He doesn't write every one of his own jokes. He does not improvise everything on his show. I hope people realize that comedians don't typically do that. It's at least rehearsed beforehand, generally speaking. Anyway, soon as Obama gets into office, all of a sudden, Colbert, who had been making grave humor about how Bush was killing small children, had no problem with Obama killing small children. All of a sudden, yeah, Obama's great. Yeah, I want to get him onto this show so I can shake his hand and not wash it for the next month and things like that. That's what Colbert devolved into. He became part of the same boring establishment. It's like some former hippie complaining and whining all day about the government, and then they like take a government job or something like that. That's what Colbert boils down to. He's a total sellout. That's what stops him from being funny, and that's why he should be let go of. When he says, oh, when his fans say, oh, well, he's ahead of Fallon now, he just overtook Fallon. That's supposed to be a compliment. He's funnier than Jimmy Fallon. Anybody's funnier than Jimmy Fallon. If I want to laugh harder than that, I will literally pick any random YouTube video. It can be like an anti-meth smoking PSA. It'll still be funnier than Jimmy Fallon. So how is that a compliment? It's not. It's almost an insult. Hey, cable TV is dying, and late night TV has never been weaker than it is now, but I'm the king of it. Okay, I'm the king of a pile of shit. That's what Stephen Colbert essentially is. There was a time, long ago, I remember back when I was like a freshman, sophomore in college. Yeah, he was funny, because he was still satirizing the entire establishment. There was nothing sacred to him. It was more edgy. It was more bitter, it was more acerbic, and there was nothing that was particularly off limits. As soon as he began establishing limits as soon as he started injecting himself directly into politics, making it very clear he had a partisan bias, which happened to be pro-Obama / pro-Clinton. As soon as he did that, as soon as there became sacred cows he would not directly satirize unless it was in a positive light, all of a sudden he stopped being funny. It doesn't matter. I mean, if somebody within comedy wants to have a political opinion, that's fine. I'm assuming that most of them do, unless they're like totally embittered by everybody and they're just like, oh, fuck politicians. I'm going to satirize them all because they're all the same sort of gruel, the same sort of backwash swill. That's, by the way, commendable because those people typically, they're going to be much more funny. When Colbert comes out and he starts using what is supposed to be a comedy platform to openly applaud one party and continuously make lame jokes about the other. Well, it's one thing, making jokes about Trump is funny, but you've got to innovate. saying, "Oh, haha, well, guess what? He's orange." It stopped being funny after the first, like, 1,000,000,000 times it was done. Oh, Trump and Putin, they're probably gay together. It's an old joke. You're like ripping off every other person on the internet who's already joked about that stuff, including people who like Trump and are sort of on the right, and they want to talk about like a Trump-Putin bromance and how great it would be if we just nuked the rest of the world or something like that. That's not funny anymore. It's old hat. Why don't you innovate? Why don't you get a new design for your joke making? Saying, "Oh, well, yeah, but at least I'm better than Jimmy Fallon." Great, good job. That just makes you the most intelligent orangutan in the enclosure. That's not saying anything significant. So yeah, I would say fire Colbert, but not because, oh, my homophobia. Now, as to the left's response, it's gotten to the point where now there are actual people who are more like Democrat, leftist, or whatever you want to term it. Those terms barely have meaning anymore. There are people in that general lexicon now that are saying, yeah, he should be let go of because this was homophobia, and they don't want to be hypocritical about it. And that's really what it boils down to. People on the right, they saw this and they said, if a right-wing comedian had said the same thing about, like, Obama and Jinping or something like that, or Obama and Biden, or Obama and Merkel, well, yeah, that counts because, you know, she's kind of manly. Yeah, something like that. The left would have shouted, "Homophobe!" and they would have immediately started boycotting all the advertisers and saying, this is, you know, hate speech, or at least almost hate speech. It's totally bigoted, and this is the current year. You can't have this on TV. We demand moralism. We demand censorship, because the left has always been really pro-censorship. Those hippies loved government censorship, I guess. Okay, and corporate advertisers. They used corporate advertisers to try to oppress people they disagreed with. All right, this is like topsy-turvy world. A bunch of hippies rambling about how great corporations are and how they should use them to apply pressure to a bunch of establishment politicians and things like that to get their way. Oh, it's surreal. It's honestly surreal. It's even way past like the early wave, like Clinton or Jimmy Carter liberals that are still around today. To the exclusion, like most of the hippies, if they're still hippies, they became survivalists. They're all like libertarian and Green Party, and they just want to smoke pot and live out in the redwoods or something. Okay, that's fine. Go smoke your pot, go smoke your crack, whatever it is. Colbert made a joke that is very vaguely, kinda, sorta, a little bit homophobic. Now, he's a comedian. He's a satirist. And I think comedians and satirists should be completely exempt from all forms of censorship. They should be able to say whatever the hell they want. I don't care how objectionable it is. I don't care if they want to sit there and joke about millions of people dying under Pol Pot and how they wish they could roll around in dead bodies and stuff. Objectionable? Yeah. Shocking? Yeah. Taboo? Yeah. That's the point. It's a point of comedy. To say what you wouldn't say in normal discourse, and you put a little bit of humor on it, and that makes it okay. It unleashes that taboo side of humanity. But if the left is going to ramble on constantly about how every other, comedy head should be totally politically correct and just sit there and twiddle their thumbs so that they don't oppress or bother or trigger anybody, why would he be exempt from that same general principle? If you're going to have no comedy, because nobody's allowed to say anything anymore without offending a bunch of idiots, then Colbert should not be exempted from it. Kick him off air, if only for that principle. So you can see, and then, by the way, these people claim to be on the left, although they're really, they're basically a moralist, like fire and brimstone neocons or something like that. They're beginning to approach the evangelicals when it comes to pushing for moral laws. They just happen to be on the other side of most of those moral issues. These people have been ranting for weeks now about Trump is against free speech. He wants to attack the right to free, the media and free expression stuff. Now you'll have something to complain about, and it'll be because of the same principles you've been arguing for. We want censorship of comedy. We don't want funny jokes. We get triggered all the time. All these idiots with pink hair and glasses that don't have lenses in them to be stylish. All the new males and stuff. They'll all get together, and then they can cry and whine and complain about, oh, the evil right is taking away Colbert's freedom of speech. You're doing that constantly. They're just doing exactly what you've been doing now for months. They're doing the same thing. Hell, they're even attacking someone who, by your standards, apparently is a homophobe. What's wrong with this? You should be joining them. You're the one arguing for censorship all the time, that free speech shouldn't be free. that it doesn't protect your right to have an unpopular opinion, that you should punch people in the back of the head for disagreeing with you. What are you so worried about? This is what you fought for, isn't it? When you started protesting there and attacking people and throwing rocks, isn't this what you were fighting for? The right to censor people who say things that you consider unpopular or a little bit unwieldy or politically incorrect. This is what the left stands for now. Get used to it. This is what you've devolved into. Nobody forced you to go down the route of, oh, we want censorship and corporate media is good and war is good as long as there's a Democrat in office. Now Trump's in office and now war's bad again or something like that. It's total hypocrisy, and that's the fucking point of the hashtag. You're all hypocrites. That's the point. You got away from the liberals years and years ago. They were like, oh yeah, free speech, yes, including unpopular opinions. Book burning is bad, and book censorship is bad, and there should be no censorship on the internet, and we should all just get along, and people should express their opinions, and technology's great, and corporate media, we don't really trust it, and we're anti-war. Those were things the left stood for maybe 30, 40 years ago. Now it stands for the total opposite. I mean, it's the only thing that they've retained are the social issues, but the way they go about supporting them is less like marching peacefully with Martin Luther King and more like, I will shoot you between the eyes if you disagree with me. And poor Maher, he has to come out constantly now and ridicule the left that he's part of because they've left him so far behind off into La La Land that they're beginning to resemble a bunch of evangelicals. Do you people not realize that you now resemble the worst aspects of the Tea Party that not that long ago you were ridiculing so much? Not even a decade ago? You resemble them now. To me, you look exactly the same. There's no difference. And that's astonishing. It's also a little bit odd because at the time, I considered myself a liberal. Now, when you began, I didn't leave that general principle behind of freedom, and I don't really like moral laws, and government should get the fuck out of people's bedrooms, and government should get the fuck off of the internet and let people say and do what they please, and government shouldn't be taxing people up the ass to pay for a bunch of wars, and our foreign policy at the time, and still is, a joke. I didn't leave that behind. The left left that behind. I feel almost like a kindred spirit to Maher, only at the same time, I don't believe in any form of political correctness. I know he does a little bit, a lot less than these other people. I can understand where he's coming from, though. He just wants to smoke his joint and be left alone. He's an actual liberal. These other people, I don't think they qualify. Neoliberal, we need to dream up a new term for this. Alt-left doesn't really work. The alt-left is, I don't know how you define it. They're just morons. And Colbert is a moron, in all honesty. He's a total corporate sellout. These people are too dumb to realize it. That's why they won't ridicule him. And he should be kicked off air, not because he's a homophobe, because I'm assuming that he's probably not anyway, as though that would matter, as though that would stop him from being funny if he were, but simply because he's not. He's not humorous anymore and hasn't been in half a decade. He refuses to satirize anything that comes out of the DNC or anything loosely associated with the left anymore. He is solely fixated on making one-liners about one fucking individual, and it has stopped being funny. He should innovate or he should resign and let somebody who's capable of actually finding other things to talk about do the job for him. That's about all. Peace out.